In front of us, we have 45 of the most interesting silicone spatulas on the market today, ranging from $7 to $27. And we're going to tell you which ones we think are worth buying.
Spatch me, baby! As always, we put these to the test in our home kitchen in normal use for at least a couple meals and up to a week or more for some of our favorites. Then, at the end, we also tested them all side by side on some common cooking tasks, like folding cookie dough, scraping down a mixing bowl, breaking up meat, and deglazing a pan. We also tried to stain at least one unit from each line with both turmeric and doubanjiang, two food products that have caused us staining headaches in the past, and then ran them through the dishwasher cleaning cycle to remove what we could. After all that, we both gave each spatula a rating based on our individual experience, and the average of those ratings is the initial cult score.
As you can see, there's quite a lot of variety in our test units here. Spatulas today come in a whole mess of shapes and sizes, but manufacturers have mostly settled on a handful of key styles. The scraper spatula is the classic shape, and most manufacturers have multiple sizes ranging from too small to be useful to too big to be practical.
The Spoonula, with its slightly convex paddle, is everywhere now, with most manufacturers having an option. But the market hasn't really settled on a specific approach, so there are a lot of variations on this theme.
And lastly, we have the butter knife replacement known as the jar scraper, which counts a vast array of little silicone deviants among its populace. While they're all nominally designed for the same task, each brand is really doing their own thing with shapes and materials.
And as far as materials, the name of the game here is silicone, of course, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's all that they're made of. It mostly just means the business end is silicone. Each brand, thank you. Each brand seems to have a different formulation there too, but they basically all have the same properties, even if brands want you to think that they're doing something special.
The rest of the spatula can be made of pretty much anything, and we tested handles made of materials from more silicone to nylon, stainless steel, bamboo, and even good old hardwood. Then there's the size, which we were really curious about because brands are really pushing a multiple size narrative. However, we found that the extra large and extra small units were just too niche for practical use.
Play with me in the space. Ugh.
The cynic in me would say that they're mostly there as pack-ins to increase average transaction value, but I also understand that there are some cases for larger and smaller spatulas, though we think those are pretty rare in most kitchens. So, for simplicity's sake, we're going to merge the scores for all sizes of a given model. After months of testing, we found that not all spatulas are made equal, and we've got a lot of ground to cover. So let's just jump into the reviews. We're going from worst to best in each of our 3 categories, starting with jar scrapers, which was the smallest and weirdest category we tested.
This is just a rubber butter knife. And the worst was the Tovolo Scoop and Spread, which comes in 2 sizes, and both of them are confusing as hell. It's the Tovolo little pervert. On one end, you've got a wonky silicone spoon, and on the other end, you've got a dull nylon butter knife. Tovolo suggests you do all sorts of ill-advised tasks with it.
Flip it on, and then, I guess, spread it with the other end and just push it away. This is so stupid. I can't think of a thing this would be better at than a regular spoon.
But they also wax poetic about the specific purple color they use for the silicone and the effects it'll have on your mental state, so pass. Spatula makers. I understand that if you make a good spatula, people don't need to buy again from you for 5 to 10 years. I urge you not to make garbage to fill in the void.
Next, we have a bewildering set of pack and junk from Dioro, alongside one decent scraper spatula that actually make a good jar scraper.
It's heavy too. Like, it feels very dense. Oh, it is just dense. It's thick.
Good thing you can buy it separately. In fact, you can buy 3 for the price of this nonsense. Look at this, now you can sprinkle 3 sprinkles at a time ass shit. Don't buy sets. Pass.
U-Taste tends to follow the copy-paste approach with a lot of their units, and we'll get to that in a minute. But for their jar scraper, they genuinely did their own thing. Unfortunately, that thing is just a silicone butter knife, which doesn't add a lot of benefit for the price. I'd rather use a metal spoon. Stop making this shit. Pass.
We couldn't agree on our favorite jar scraper, but Bryn's is the OXO Good Grips jar spatula, which is essentially a skinny version of their standard scraper, and both have everything you'd expect from OXO. They're comfortable to hold with some extra thoughtful details thrown in, like a lovely soft touch matte finish all over, except for a polished beveled edge on the paddle to get a nice seal and a reinforced hook eye on that handle.
Great mix of flexible and rigid.
This form factor is perfect for getting under the lip of a peanut butter jar, but it's short enough that it can get into all sorts of smaller things too. So smash.
And Sarah won because her favorite, the Tovolo FlexCore jar spatula, had the higher combined score. I don't like the floppy end, but she put our old one through the absolute ringer for years of baking, from scraping out measuring cups to using it as a pretty bad full-fledged spatula in a pinch, and it just kept on scraping until a fatal accident with a food processor scraped it back. But after this, she's got a new one, and all's right with the world. Smash.
Moving on to the scrapers, we're again starting with the worst, which is the KitchenAid Gourmet Scraper Spatula. One spatula, 4 materials, and somehow all of them worst in class.
4 similar materials in one unit that don't quite match.
Along with those separate materials, you also get the most seams of any unit we tested. Useful for storing your leftover bacteria. Pass.
It doesn't look very good. It looks like it belongs in the 90s. Rochla's Brutalist Spatula Silicone White is giving kitchen jewelry more than practical tool and comes with a price tag to match. Only the commercial models were more expensive. There are 3 sizes, ranging from 8 inches to 12 inches, but that super minimalist handle made them all uncomfortable, if not borderline unusable.
I feel like this spatula wants to be in control of me. I kind of feel like this is the best way to hold it.
They also stain pretty badly. Pass.
KitchenAid's Universal Bamboo Scraper Spatula had a super hard paddle
Doesn't want to give hardly at all.
that was hard to get into corners.
Maybe not as good for like a saucier. It's just like a really sharp.
And honestly, the bamboo handle was not an improvement.
Feels like it got sanded one time and then that was it.
It was in desperate need of sanding and makes the whole package not dishwasher friendly, which is especially frustrating because it is one of the spatulas that was the most easily stained. If any cookware category should be dishwasher friendly, it's this one. Pass.
Next, we've got a 3-way tie between Mercer's Hell's Tools Silicone Blade Spatula, Rubbermaid's High Heat Scraper, and Volrast's 13.5-inch High Temp Silicone Spatula. I know there's this narrative online that buying your tools at a commercial cookware shop is going to get you better tools at a lower cost, but this is a perfect example of why that's not the case. They're way too big for home appliances, the handles are less comfortable, they're uglier, they stain easier, they're more expensive than any other units we tested, and to top it all off, their operating temps were among the lowest of this whole batch, so they're not even more durable. These are designed to get a basic job done while appeasing health inspectors. They are not a life hack for home cooks. It's like I'm chopping meat with a credit card, a thick credit card, for like a rich person. Lots of money in it. Unless you're cooking commercially or maybe competitively, the little ones are good for cleaning off the big ones. The big ones are... these are a pass.
Cuisinart's baking spatula has a wood handle, which adds a pretty big seam and makes it rather dishwasher unfriendly. At least it has a nice smooth finish, but we found ourselves wanting to hold it like a paintbrush.
Think about it, like I keep trying to hold it like this. It just feels like a big paintbrush.
Unfortunately, the paddle was way too soft and stains really easily.
Too soft. It's leaving like whole swaths of dough behind. Or sugar butter. Sweet crime.
Pass.
Utaste is a brand we hadn't heard of, but ATK said they liked their scraper spatula, so we took a look, and it's pretty clear why they like it. It's an almost exact clone of the Dioro spatula that they've been recommending since 2017, right down to the chamfer on the eye hook. All I can say is someone should be getting sued for this design. We'll get to the Dioro in a moment, but as for this unit, it is a little thinner, and the silicone paddle was way floppier than Dioro's, which is already pretty soft for our taste. It was too soft for even scraping down a mixture full of butter and sugar, which you'd think it'd be good at.
Supposed to conform to the shape of the bowl. That's their whole gimmick.
Well, it fucking doesn't. Look at this. It's streaky as fuck. It's definitely not up to anything requiring some oomph, like deglazing a pan or folding stiffer ingredients. Pass.
We've had great experiences with Tovolo's FlexCore line in the past, so we picked up a number of them for this review, and only one was a pass. The version with the stainless steel handle.
It's probably gonna have a longer lifespan than the straight silicone on the handle specifically, but anything with a seam makes me a little bit anxious that that's where wear is gonna happen.
They also make a wood handled version, which we didn't get to test in this batch, but regardless, this is a significant downgrade, and we think the wood handle would be as well. A reinforced silicone unibody construction is just way better for spatulas because it's far easier to clean thoroughly, and silicone tolerates and prevents heat spreading better than most other materials. Plus this unit costs more, so pass.
Dioro has made America's Test Kitchen's favorite scraper spatula since 2017, so we finally gave it a try and we weren't as impressed. We agreed that it had a decent shape for small corners, but found that because of how soft the silicone is around the hook eye on the end of the handle, that we struggled to put force into it for tasks like scraping down a mixer because the handle just collapses under your hand. I don't know why they do this. All the Dioros are so flopsy at the end. I want a little more rigidity there, and then I want all the flexibility right at the blade, you know? Is blade the right word? Is that what we would call that? At the terminus? At the debt ceiling? To be fair though, that's true of models from UTaste and GIR too. Other than that, it's fine. Smash.
When I try to imagine a completely default, unopinionated silicone spatula, GIR's Ultimate Scraper Spatula is the one I think of.
Very middling in performance. It's like dead center of the market in terms of like flexibility.
Maybe that's why so many people like them though. It's going to do the job and there's no bells or whistles to get hung up on. It definitely isn't the most practical blade shape today.
Scooping in here, right, to get everything out, you leave kind of a circle in the bottom of the container. It gets the edges, but not the middle, just because it's so rounded. You have to push in hard. And that doesn't work so well when you're holding a container like this.
But I do want to call out that when brands minify their main spatula by making it skinnier rather than shorter, like the skinny scraper spatula, they make them way more versatile. Smash.
The OXO Everyday Scraper Spatula is just a bigger version of their jar scraper with the polished bevel on the opposite side, and it was definitely a standout performance-wise. This is kind of perfect. It has like just the right amount of flex and just the right amount of rigidity for this task. It's not leaving like a completely clean bowl though, and I think that comes down to the matte finish. That said, I wish it was a little softer. They're so stiff, my hand is like cramping already. They're also unusually expensive for OXO, and at least this finish called Oat was pretty easy to stain. They've got some other colors that maybe do a better job of hiding stains though, so I'd look at those instead if you want to go this route. Smash.
And for our favorite scraper, we have the Tovolo FlexCore scraper, which has a fantastic squared off shape that makes it easy to get in corners. By keeping the tip rigid and the side soft, the FlexCore gives cooks easy access to both flexibility for detailed work and rigidity for heavier duty tasks. We love the way it felt in the hand and how easy it was to put pressure where you want it. We do wish it had a hole in the handle for those of you who like to hang your utensils though. Smash, but we actually think you shouldn't get any of these. And I know that's annoying, but it's because the best scraper spatula in 2024 is actually a Spoonula.
But we've got some bad ones to dig through first. This is the KitchenAid Gourmet Spoonula, and it's garbage that shouldn't have been made. These are not very hand-friendly. Worst in class materials, 3 unnecessary seams, the blade goes from floppy to completely stiff with nothing in between, couldn't be me, but hey, at least they got it down to only 3 distinct surface materials in one spatula this time. Pass.
Also at the bottom, we have the Dream Farm Spoon, which is just trying to do too much.
It's not very good at being a spatula, I would say, so I might basically disqualify this because it is awful.
The gimmick is that it's got a built-in spoon rest and a measuring spoon. But in all that QVC looking ass as seen on TV gimmickry, they've made it bad at its main job, being a spatula.
I mean, it does really lend itself to that rim cleaning action. Ugh.
Pass.
Back to the commercial kitchen cosplay. I know you're trying to look like the bear. We have the Rubbermaid scraper spoon in both high and low temp variations. We were curious about the low temp thing, but it basically just means stiffer.
Couldn't be you.
God damn it. Though it did have a comfier handle. The offerings from Mercer and Volrath aren't technically tied this time because they did have slightly different blade textures that we found nicer for folding or scraping, but still, we wouldn't recommend buying any of them for home use. I just don't know why you would go for the food service version with the thick nylon handle that's not very comfortable and the aesthetic that is pretty rough, honestly. Pass.
UTaste is back to wrap up the passes with basically the exact same issues.
The very tip is way soft. And actually the other end of it is as well, where I put my palm of my hand, the heel of my palm, that word.
It's just a little too limp for our taste.
Couldn't be me!
Though the concave shape of the Spoonula does lend it just a little bit of rigidity.
I think this just might be a good shape for this kind of task. It's like a windshield wiper for a bowl.
Pass.
Dioro's Spoonula is, again, basically identical to the UTaste version, which appears to have cloned every detail except rigidity. I'm having to put a lot of arm into this because it's so flexible and I really have to choke up on it. The Dioro model is ever so slightly stiffer, which makes it a little more versatile for us. Smash, but just barely. A little too soft to really be effective at scraping up the fond. It's not doing a terrible job just because water does most of the work, but I think you'd be kind of annoyed if this was your go-to.
GIR Spoonulas were our introduction to the form factor years ago, and in this case, it's essentially the exact same as the models from Dioro and UTaste, but again, just a bit stiffer and thus more versatile. Smash.
Did you just point to me?
Yeah.
You clown. OXO Good Grips' spoon spatula has all the things we like from their scraper spatula except one, rigidity. They made the whole handle soft. It's still great at scraping and stirring in most folding tasks, but it really falls off on tasks like deglazing. Smash.
And last but not least, we have the Tovolo Flex Core Spoonula, which is basically identical to their scraper model, but now slightly concave. That might not seem like a big deal, but it's genius because it's literally just the best of both worlds.
Has the right flex, has the right stiffness. All the flexes in the very tip, which I love to see. That just is gonna mean you get a better seal with the surface itself.
And better yet, they are the exact same price. It's genius, and I think it's hilarious that all the copycats are chasing GIR when this thing's been on the market for years. I've already ordered several more since we shot this review.
Nope, just since I wrote it.
Okay, smash.
I know we've said it enough by now, but we really wouldn't recommend a set. Every set we looked at or tested had pack-ins that we just didn't want or need. Just get a couple of the best ones so you'll have a backup or 3 when one's dirty and thank us later.
As always, links to all these products are over at cultflave.com alongside slightly more detailed text reviews from each of us. And if you've used some of these products yourself, go add your own review to help other home cooks make better, more informed decisions. Bye. What do you think? He likes the OXO.
He's always been a fan of oats.